Awakened Aligned podcast and YouTube show. I'm Shannon Kaiser, and I'm here to support you through your personal growth journey and help you on your healing path. Everything I do is really to connect you back to your true self and own your worth. And today's topic is really important because I find that in my private practice, a lot of people are coming to me with similar situations where they're starting to feel like perhaps they're in situations where they're not what they seem, perhaps relationships that are very one sided, or even been involved in very kind of push pull dynamics. And they get into these connections, whether it's a personal relationship or a colleague or coworker, or even someone in the neighborhood or a family member, and they just don't feel safe. The key word is safe. A lot of the times we have values that are really important to us, and we do things in life to feel safe. And especially when we're young and little, we go through life not always feeling safe. So we kind of develop protection mechanisms. And sometimes people pleasing can be a form of safety. Sometimes, showing up for others at the exhaust of self, saying yes when you want to say no. These are all forms of I want to be liked, I want to be accepted. So I'm going to fit into the world and do things against myself. And we want to really reclaim our power. We want to bring us back to our truest self. And so today's topic is to really identify if and when and how you can feel safe. So the idea of can you feel safe? It's about protecting yourself against people who are actually trying to manipulate, control, coerce, or even just take from you when you're coming into a situation and a connection where you genuinely want to build a relationship or build a stronger foundation, and someone else might not be on the same page. There are certain things you can do to recognize early on in the connection if this person is going to be safe for you, safe in your physical sense, safe in your emotional sense, and even your spirituality. So, number one is to recognize and look at, and you can pick anybody in your life. Just maybe you're having a situation with someone where you're feeling, is this really what I think it is? Safety is important. Your safety matters. And what we want to look at is a lack of empathy and even a lack of remorse. If somebody you are involved with does not have the ability to empathize, or even more so, if you feel like they don't have remorse, this is a sign that you can recognize that down the road, you probably won't be able to feel safe in a deep, loving connection. A lot of times, this lack of empathy can be a little tricky because there are people who are master manipulators and they may not have empathy, but they understand how other people are, and they're masters at understanding human emotions and psychology. So they will cognize and empathize from a place of making you feel like they understand. So they use this through their words. They have kind of responses that make you feel like they're there and empathizing with you. But how you know that it's not true empathy is a feeling. It's like they're saying the right things, but you don't necessarily feel it. And somebody who has a big open heart or who is really in their empathy, like you will know that this empathy feels a little bit misplaced. A lot of times, covert narcissists are really good at disguising empathy through their words, through their support, but it feels fake or false or a little bit like it's falling on kind of deaf ears. So look at that. Also, look at if you're in an argument or you bring up a situation and it doesn't really go the way planned. Maybe you wanted to have resolution, but they attacked you and blamed you and pushed it back on you. And after the situation, there's really no remorse, or they do something that really doesn't sit right, and there's no remorse on their end. There's no real apology. These are all signs that you cannot really feel safe long term with this person. Now, again, people are human. Humans do things. We have and make mistakes. But if these are patterns that you're seeing consistently in your connections, you might want to take note that this person in your life might be really kind of out for themselves. And that's what I mean by safety. They're more in it for them. They're definitely not looking out for you. And they're really kind of just taking what they can from you and the connection. Another thing to consider is the 90% rule. The 90% rule is something that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but if you think about, there's the majority of the world that kind of acts in a way that is responsible or respectful or empathizing with each other. They have, this kind of I want to serve and help others, or I want to help those I love. And then there's this about 10% of the population that really falls under these personality disorders, such as sociopaths, narcissistic, anybody who, even just toxic people, right? It doesn't even matter about the labels. It's like, do I feel good around them? Do I feel safe? Well, the 90% rule is something that if they do something that makes you think, that's interesting, or that's a little weird, or that's not something I would do. Now, granted, everyone is different in the world and we function differently, but there is about 10% of the population that falls under these kind of categories of super extreme toxic people who are only in it for themselves. And they will do things that are a little bit different. And maybe it could be you have a request for them, such as pick up milk on the way home or do the dishes, and then their response is just very disproportionate to the request. They freak out, they blame, they shame. Or it could be something that maybe they have like social media accounts that are fake or burner accounts, and they're trying to manipulate and control and sneak up on you, anything like that. And you're starting to recognize, and you think to yourself, would 90% of the population do this? Would 90% of the population respond in this way? And if the answer is no, then chances are you have someone who is probably not very safe for you, because they're really in a kind of a path of just taking what they can, manipulating, using, and abusing what they can to have their own personal gain. So protect yourself and just back away from connections in a safe way if you can. And this is something you can recognize early on. This is all about reclaiming you and your power. So the next one that I will share, and the final one for today, is to really look at, do they justify their words and their actions, in the sense of they're not really open to feedback. Maybe they defend or they blame you when you bring up something. If you're in a connection with someone, you're committed to growth and you're wanting to grow together. But from this experience, if somebody that you are involved with attacks you back, blames, does not and can't handle feedback, they look at it as you really, shaming them. That's not what you're doing, but you're kind of trying to come together, but they just justify what they did and blame and turn it back on you. That's a real big red flag. So these are things to recognize. And also the final one, just to say on a bonus level, how does it feel? You don't have to have reasons. You don't have to have names that you call people of this is a toxic person or this person is on the spectrum of narcissism. None of that matters. Do you feel safe? If you don't feel safe, it's time to renegotiate your connection with this person and really look at your sovereignty and owning your own worth by establishing clear boundaries. And when you establish boundaries, having people really respect that is important. So I hope you are good on your journey, and I wish you well and a lot of safety, first and foremost, showing up for you. Thanks for joining us today at Play with the World and the Awakened in the Line podcast. I hope you're enjoying these topics. They're so wildly fulfilling for me because I want you to be safe and fulfilled and connected on your path. Thanks.